Hello, my friends. Today I want to talk about my truth versus your truth versus the truth. Because here's the bottom line premise. There is a truth, but none of us has a complete handle on it, not even close. And at this time in history, there is a war for the narrative. There's a war for reality. There's a war for what is actually true. And that is manifesting itself in all kinds of interesting, confusing, stressful, exciting, and unpleasant ways. You could add some more words if you want to. So for some reason today, I'm feeling a lot of things feel like they're swirling around. So I'm trying to ground my energy, but it's a little bit challenging. I have a few notes here that I might check with. So first of all, the Hasidus, authentic Kabbalah, mystical Torah tells us that it asks the question, because here's a paradigm for you. We're taught that God is Ein Od Milvado. There's nothing but God, divine consciousness, the one. And yet, what's this? What's this? What's this? What's the world? What are all the worlds? We're also taught that God never changes. God says, Ani Hashem lo shanisi, I don't change. So the question about whether the world is real is real. And what is the answer in a very tiny nutshell? That what was created, what is being created now and now and now and now at every moment is a perspective. It's the ability, what God is creating by hiding all there is. God is creating the ability for us to have a perspective. One of the big problems with that, one of the great advantages, the great gifts of that is that each of us gets to experience life from our own unique perspective. We are literally unique pieces of the puzzle with our own unique design functions in the universe. Truly, truly, truly. I saw this actually on the 21st of December, I was meditating and I saw this in a very, very real way, like more real by far than I ever have. That no matter how small we might think we are an absolutely essential part of this entire structure. Like if a screw is missing from the truck engine, what's going to happen, to the truck? If anything gets a little disconnected, nothing will run. So you are crucially important. You understanding your design function and living it is crucially important. In fact, that's what my personal work is about, that I do with myself, continuously, and that's why I'm here right now. But the problem is, that's the gift. The problem is that each of our perspectives is completely unique and different, and we are in conflict with ourselves and with each other almost continuously. Now you can add to that what's going on in our times. And here's what I want to talk about: actual reality, digital reality versus actual reality. So for all these years since the world was created, since humans began to walk this planet, actual reality wasn't that hard to discern in terms of the world around you. Yes, what's really true, does that person like me or really not like me? Am I good or am I really bad, not good enough? All these different questions that we continuously ask ourselves with the blabbing little voice, those questions existed, though I'm sure people didn't have nearly enough time and energy to spend the focus on them that we do. But what didn't exist then was what we now call digital. The world is so different from how it used to be, because literally I watched a movie, not a movie, a little video, YouTube clip where about the nature of reality, where someone was, drinking coffee from a cup, writing with the pen, had a whole room around him. And during that video clip, he disappeared. All of those things reappeared as another person, which really made me wonder. And then I saw another clip where lifelike masks, where different people were making these full cover masks that they would put on and literally look like a middle-aged man looking like a little girl with pigtails. It was so real. It's kind of creepy. Green screens, that's the least of it. CGI, that's the least of it. These things are part of God's plan, and they can all be used for the good, for magnificent good. However, right now, because we're in a war for reality, there is a war for the narrative. There is a war for reality. Which reality are you going to believe? Are you going to believe that, that pharmaceuticals are good for you and I'm trying to avoid certain words, or dangerous, that that face coverings are good for you or dangerous? Are you going to believe that, this person won or that person won? What are you going to believe? How are you going to think? And there is literally a war going on to try to capture our belief. Now, here's the thing about belief. Belief happens to be the most powerful or one of the very most, perhaps the most powerful capacity of the soul. So ultimately, the soul is experiencing continuous connection with God and with source. And so that filters through and allows us, any person who ever sacrificed for faith, that was because that soul's experience is being activated within the conscious human being. And that's what we call belief or faith. It's infinite. It's way beyond anything I could describe. When it comes into our minds, however, it functions in a very different way. When I was in high school, junior high school actually, taking geometry, I remember, how impressed I was by the idea that they taught me that when you have different premises, you'll have a different logical series of thoughts and you'll have a different conclusion. So you can't go without premises. You would be directionless, mindless. We all have premises, but when you're stuck to your premise, whatever it is about the nature of reality, to the degree that you activate your power of belief, which we all do, this is our automatic, this is our default. So then everything that you perceive in your world, the information you're willing to look at, the conclusions that you're willing to come to, the people that you are willing to listen to, what you're blind to, closed to, and what you're open to and seeking, all depend on your premise. And it's given the power of this cosmic soul level belief. Like there's no, I know what's true and that's that. You're crazy. You're crazy. You're off. Now I have this too. Maybe not like, my next door neighbor. I don't know. Because we all have different premises based on how we were brought up, what our soul mission is, our past lives, our genetic line, our personal experiences, all of that. But what I want to bring out is that we are unable, when we are stuck with a mind belief, and again, we all are, but when we believe in our belief to the point where we let it run us, where that's the only logical sequence that our mind will go down, where that's the only information that confirms that belief will we ever allow in, we're never going to change. We're going to be subject to a narrative, to a version of my truth that's not your truth and that's not the truth. So what is happening right now? Everything that's coming to us is coming as part of the divine plan. That's the plan that we really need to trust, the divine plan. What is the divine plan? Heaven and earth are merging. The souls are awakening. A deeper unity is happening. Does it look like that? 100% no, not at all. And that's where I want to speak for a moment to the idea of breakdown. Sometimes breakdown is required. Sometimes things falling apart are required. It is required. Why? Because when a structure is too solid, too rigid, too subject to the belief that's not coming from up there, but that's coming from here, learned subconscious programming. Bruce Lipton, I interviewed a couple of times. I don't know if you know him. He's the father of epigenetics, very brilliant person. And he said that when a child is from birth to age 6, 7, the child is downloading everything that he hears and perceives, all the beliefs that are being put into his mind, and that becomes his truth. And then those behaviors become his default. So that's a belief that starts here. So when we're stuck in that place, when our mental capacity, our ability to see, our consciousness is like basically between here and here, this is just for illustration purposes, then there's no way that we can grow. There's no way that we can overcome our own limitations, our own identity in order to connect to a greater unity, in order to connect to a greater light, a greater power, in order to connect to our source, in order to connect to our souls, in order to connect to other people. I mean, this goes without saying, right? It's obvious. So sometimes we need to have situations in life that cause us to question this, whatever it is, or we need to have desires in life or goals or passions that maybe this doesn't allow us to pursue, doesn't allow us to really lean into. It's not a maybe, it's the fact. So when that happens, often what we're gifted with is something breaking down, a belief, our vision of reality, our expectations of the future something happens that causes our picture of things to kind of shatter. And then we have the opportunity of either barricading ourselves more deeply, separating ourselves more intensely, or drawing upon a deeper version of consciousness and truth that lies behind that wall. So that's basically what is supposed to be happening now. This has an exact parallel in Kabbalah. In the creation of the world, there are 3 stages in the creation of the world, according to Kabbalah. One is called akudim, which means to be bound. This is called the unstable state of tohu, of the world of chaos, where there's infinite light, all potential, but it's not expressed. It's all in a container, one potential, undifferentiated potential container. And then that's the state of the infinite divine light, before anything individuated. And then we have the worlds of tohu, there's the primordial world of chaos. We have the different expressions, 7 expressions. I don't want to get too lost in this, but Kabbalistically, in the worlds of tohu, they're called the 7 kings who ruled and died. And those were infinite expressions of divine light that had particular focus. The problem is, if you have a particular focus and it's infinite, there's no room for anything else. And so each of these 7 kings, Kabbalah says, ruled and died. In other words, God expressed himself in a way of infinite giving and loving, and then in a way of infinite discipline and might, and then in a way of infinite harmony and blending, but without anything. All of these stages happened. That's called in Kabbalah Shvirat HaKelim, the breaking of the vessels, and the shards of those broken, infinite, focused expressions of divinity fell, so to speak, it's all metaphorical, into the physical world and became the source of physical things. Where does that quality of, like, it's all the way I see it, it's infinite, where does that manifest? In a human being, in the ego, in the identity, and in our attachments to our opinion that come to the left brain. So to the degree that you are holding an opinion, or someone else is holding an opinion, we all are, that's based on this, and that we're going to fight for it, and we know it's the only reality, that's the degree to which we are holding ourselves and the world back from its rectified state of redemption, of Geula, of heaven on earth. This is tohu. This is chaos. It's a divine quality that's even higher, in a sense, than order, but when it's not put into a superstructure of divine order, and that's what we're building now as humanity, we just don't know it. When it's not put into that higher structure of divine order, when that intense ego energy, that belief energy, can't see beyond its own self to be part of something bigger than itself. Yes, express itself, but as part of something bigger. Like the red is so red, that's great. It has to be red. It shouldn't be potential red, it should be real red, but then it has to connect to the blue. And has to see that the blue also has a place. And wait, when you put red together with blue, then what do you see? Oh, maybe now you see the beginning of a flag. Wait, now we need white. Now we need a different red. Now we need a different blue. And nothing loses itself. Again, as I said in the beginning, it's the time for us to understand and to embrace, to lean into our own design function in the universe. A 20 billion piece jigsaw puzzle with one piece missing is a joke. It's a waste. This is not just a trivial saying. This is the ultimate reality. You are essential. You have to be yourself. But which self are you going to be? Is it going to be your truth? Or are you going to subject yourself to my truth? Or are we going to open, even as we're expressing ourselves, but continuously allowing for breakdown and more opening to the truth? And that starts with not being so attached to believing in what you believe. And it's not that you're not going to believe it, but keep an open mind. Question yourself. Like, is there somewhere? Here's a clue. Now I'm into giving clues. I gave some clues yesterday. So here's a way that you can find out if you are too attached to your belief. If someone else's belief is triggering you emotionally and making you really mad, like, I can't stand it, like that kind of mad. Not like, I wish they'd be different. I don't feel safe with this. Okay, that's a reasonable, that's something you could dialogue about. That's something you could, consider talking about, unless the other person is stuck here and they're attached to their ego. When the ego gets involved in the beliefs, when you believe too much in the belief and it becomes your identity, then it's toxic, then it's dangerous, then everything is going to be in opposition to everything else. Everyone is going to be in opposition to everyone else, where it's going to be my truth versus your truth, and nobody will have any ongoing access or deepening access to the truth. And that is a world of chaos. Chaos, when it's not in its superstructure of tikkun, tohu, when it's not in its superstructure of tikkun, of higher divine order, is destructive. It is destructive. It destroys things. That's what it is. And that's the breakdown that hopefully we can use to create a higher level of order. Again, this is not about suppressing the self at all. I keep showing up here saying, look deeper, learn more, be more of who you are, awaken yourself. But that is not like my way or the highway. That is like, wow, I really see this truth. How can I see even deeper than that? How can I see where you're seeing something that maybe I'm not seeing? How can I see where there's some validity in what you're thinking without losing what I'm thinking? How can I see what your fears are and what my fears are, where the ego's involved, so I can make a connection that otherwise I wouldn't be able to make? Because here's the other thing that I wanted to say. When sometimes certain Torah teachers, when they are approached by somebody who has strong questions about, is there a God? Is the Torah real, or whatever? One of the arguments that's given, proofs, so to speak, is that Torah is the only a spiritual tradition that claims to have been given by God to millions of people at the same time. In other words, like all these spiritual traditions, other than the Torah tradition, as far as I know, one person or two people or whatever have divine inspiration. It resonates with people. They go and teach. Perhaps they're very lofty souls, but only Torah claims to have been delivered to humanity through the 600,000 core souls, which actually were something like 5 million people. And the idea of that is that Judaism is pretty, until this past couple generations, Jews were pretty, like, for the most part, isolated into their own communities and insular. And so, you would think that parent to child, somebody would say, they say that the Torah was given by 5 million, but my parents are Jewish back like 20 generations, and we have a tradition that there was no Torah. No, they weren't there on Mount Sinai. No, that never happened. That doesn't happen. That doesn't exist. In other words, there's nobody whose tradition within Torah. There are plenty of people who are Jewish who don't believe in the Torah, but there's nobody that I've ever heard of, or ever, like, anybody I know has ever heard of, whose family tradition is that we're Jewish, but we know that was a lot. Like, our family saw that Moses said that and it wasn't true. No, this was something that was validated historically and traditionally, because there were so many people all there. Actually, the Torah says that, the Kabbalah says that if there had been anyone missing of these 600,000 core souls that were branched out into the approximately 5 million, if one of them had been missing, the Torah would not have been able to be received on behalf of humanity, because it's too vast. It's too vast. That's why we need everybody's perspective. When there's a GPS, when somebody wants to geolocate, they can't just be in one dot. They can't just be in their own place. They have to triangulate. If they want to get a cell phone signal, they have to triangulate. They have to have a few different perspectives, at least, even to find a physical location, because you need the perspective in order to get to the center. That's what we need. We need to open our minds, look deeper, be ourselves. Don't take on someone else's truth, because it's not truth, right? It's information that you can listen to and consider, and then look deeper. Then listen to someone else and consider, and then look deeper. I'm not telling you what to believe. I know what I'm more or less believing, but even what I believe, I'm open, because I know, some things I'm not so open to, but I'm open to being wrong about things in a general way, though I have the same ego as everybody else, just because so many times I've seen that I thought I knew and had everything covered, and then I found out later there was just something I didn't know, and I didn't take it into account, and I paid the consequences, paid the price. So this is a way of thinking that we want to adopt. It doesn't have to change our personality, but to know, just to hold that higher belief that there's something much, much bigger than what any of us know, and some of it is available to us, but we will have much, much more knowledge, wisdom, and connection if we can look deeper, if we can question this, even while we're feeling very attached to it. Now, what I want to caution everybody to, before this was a much more mellow live than yesterday, but anyway, this idea of what's actual reality and digital reality. This is where I want to bring it to the very practical. Because this isn't just about your attitude. This isn't just about normal human being. There are groups, whether in government, in industry, wherever they might be coming from, there are groups that would like to have undue influence on other groups, true or false. I mean, we see this throughout history. It's not a big surprise, right? Like advertising. That's what advertising is about. Some of it is legit, some of it's not legit, but in any case, people would like to have influence. Politics, people want to have influence, right? And people have platforms and they have agendas. Even if we keep it that simple, that's obviously true. The problem, the additional problem that we have now with this whole paradigm of belief and, my truth, your truth, and the ego, is that there are people fighting. There is a war, literally, for your attention, for you. There's a war for your mind and soul. Spiritual war, as I've been talking about the whole time. That there's a war being fought for you to believe what people want you to believe. And the war has been made incredibly easy because of digital. And especially in the last year. I mean, for me, it's great because I was online anyway. I love that venue. But you can tell if your feet are on albeit everything's a perspective. In the physical body, you can tell if you're on the beach. Maybe you can't really, maybe we are in a computer matrix, I don't know. But in general, you can see when a tree is waving outside, you can feel it. It's like you feel the connection of the earth, of the wind, of the sand, of the water. It's holy, it's harmonious, it's coherent, and it's real. When you see somebody on video, or a group of people on video who could have pre-recorded, who could have done CGI, who could be using a green screen, who could be wearing masks, who could be disappearing and appearing like I saw in those videos. If you didn't see the first part of this, you have to go back and listen. Everything is fakeable. So there is absolutely no proof whatsoever, even on a real simple level, that something's real. How do we know if something's real? I guess we have to, we can't know for sure. We can't know for sure until it's proven. But it's important to discern by listening, questioning who you can trust, who's proved themselves over time, who's not stuck on their ego. Yesterday we talked about red flags. If I could remember what they all are, then I would repeat them. Somebody weaponizing fear, no reason to trust them. Is somebody ego-driven, obviously, and doesn't make space for it, gets upset by other people's opinions? That's a red flag. I don't remember what the rest were offhand. But in terms of the digital reality, so know who to trust and verify, so you can trust them over time. If you find that they're not trustworthy, move on. Listen to more than one opinion and see what feels most real to you, but make sure that you're out of your ego. Make sure that there's no fear. You cannot rely on yourself when you're in a state of fear. That's another deep truth that I'm exploring more and more. As soon as you are in a state of fear, you can know that you're off. Your perceptions will be off. Your actions will probably be off. Your emotions will be off. Even your immune system will be off. So getting rid of fear is crucial. When fear is weaponized, that's the opposite. Oh, another one was, are they fighting against the bottom line principles of the Torah in terms of creating an inhabitable society? Like, are they like on a mission to bash the norms and create new norms? Is political correctness, again, that's pushing aside other people's opinions. These are just things to watch for. But question the digital reality. Here's what I want to say, and I'll leave it at this for today. Also, several people did write to me and say that they'd like a Zoom where we can talk about things in a very open way. So I'm still looking at when I might do that. But if something is presented to you digitally, so the first thing out of these two things that you can do now, besides question your beliefs, that's look for different information, try to go deeper, try not to bash other people, don't believe in your beliefs, find people that you can trust and then continue to ascertain that you can trust them. Use more than one. And the third one is something happening in front of your eyes, or is it happening on a screen? Because if it's only happening on a screen, there's absolutely no verification that it's true. There's no reason to believe it. And right now we have two worlds. We have the actual reality, whatever that may be, and we have the digital reality, which is what's been being pushed on us by media and the people that are, in control of media, which again are the large, the powers that be. I'm not saying all powers that be, but a lot. And that digital reality feels like it's actually real and accomplishing real things. But think about it. If something is only happening on TV, then do you have to believe it? Do you have to act in response to it? Do you have to assume that the things that were happening on the ground aren't happening anymore? Why? And all I want you to consider is that this is a spiritual war, and the war is happening on your screen, on your screen, on your screen. So be wise about your power of belief. Keep going deeper. Prayer really helps too. Reach out to me if you have anything you want to share. And by the way, I'm doing a free event next week on the 27th and 28th. I think it's Tuesday and Wednesday. I think that's the 27th and 20th. No, sorry, Wednesday and Thursday. I think it's 27th and 28th. It's called Release Your Soul Light and Shine Your Soul Light and Lead. It's going to be interactive. It's going to be a few hours each day for 2 days. It's going to really, really change your life if you show up for everything. So you can sign up at www.gateofunity/soul light, all lowercase, www.gateofunity/soul light, all lowercase. And I'll really look forward to seeing you there. And feel free to share that invitation with your friends. We really, 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 there was one other thing I wanted to say, even though this is kind of long. I don't know if you ever saw Star Trek. Lately, since yesterday, I'm really into thinking about these movies. If you ever saw Star Trek, you'll know about the Borg. There was one Star Trek which featured the Borg, which was a society that was controlled by an authoritarian, whatever, leader, and their minds were connected to some kind of computer and to each other, so they function like ants. I don't know if you know that ants, they have some kind of connection that's non-physical. So they're all moving the same way at the same time. They function like a collective. So the Borg is mindless. It's centralized. It's controlled by an authority on the top who tells each of the Borg what to think and suppresses the individuality. That is not unity. That is conformity. Instead, and again, this is just like these 3 stages of tohu, where all the light is in potential in one vessel. Then as things come to express themselves, which is part of the divine plan, red is red, green is green, kindness is infinite, withholding is infinite. Everything's infinite. My way or the highway. And then we have the breaking of the vessels, because you can't have infinite different opposite things in one space. And then it's the opportunity for everything to know itself as a piece, its own design function. That's where we are now. But where we're moving, the final stage, is tikkun. Tikkun is that higher divine order, when you are fully yourself and you are fully connected to the mission. So that's unity. And therefore you're connected, when you're a part of that, your red piece of the flag, you're going to be connected to the white piece of the flag, because that's your next door neighbor. And together you make something bigger. It doesn't mean you suppress yourself. On the contrary, exact opposite. You become infinite because you're an infinitely essential part of an infinite whole. Being you. So that's where we need to go. We are not Borg. If somebody wants you to be Borg, don't say that. We don't say that. You're not allowed to use that. Then resist that, because that's not holy. Simple. That's not holy. It's tricky because you're told that it's more humane. That's where you have to be discerning. But to truly be yourself, and to truly respect someone else in being themselves, to see where they're not being themselves. If you get triggered like that, then to understand that that's your ego, that's fear, and there's work to do, and that work needs to be done. It's part of your mission. So then you become more and more uncovered as who you truly are. Your light really begins to shine. And that, when you're doing that, that's not only for you, that will help to create this higher divine order that is going to bring about a world of heaven on earth. And that's why breakdown is sometimes required. So don't worry about what's happening. It's all good. Just understand how to align yourself with it. And that's what I have to say for today. Feel free to reach out to me. either here or by email if you want to. Several people emailed me about that potential Zoom for more open discussion, and loving everybody, even when I'm not. Take care, you guys. Let's see where the world is tomorrow. Moving along fast. Take care.